There was a story of a gentleman who went and quote unquote robbed the bank for like $4,320. It was such a specific amount. It was so that he could pay for his sister's surgery. He couldn't get his money out to pay for his sister's surgery. Like, this is what the people were dealing with.
Do you think it saved their money?
I mean, for sure, right? Because right now, what would he have? Nothing. And instead, he has an apartment. In the last decade, especially when we come to the banking crisis, that really put a hurt on everybody, realistically, because everybody's money who was in the bank was lost. The banks aren't, if they're not backed by gold, by silver, what do you do?
טוב, אהובים ואהובות, יש לי בשבילכם פרק מזעזע, מטלטל, אבל עם המון נקודות למחשבה. סיימתי עכשיו ריבר מטורף עם בחורה לבנונית לפני 6 שנים, 7 שנים, 2019, הכסף של המשפחה שלה קרס, הם הלכו לבנק להוציא את הכסף, ויום בהיר אחד פשוט נאמר להם, לא. מה זאת אומרת לא? זה הכסף שלי, אתה תגיד לי מה מותר לי, מה אסור לי? לא. אז הכסף הזה היה בדולרים, ואז הם רצו להוציא אותו, הם יכלו להוציא אותו רק בלירה המקומית הטורקית, אבל השער המרה שהיה פעם כזה, פתאום הפך להיות 10% מהדבר הזה. אז אם היה לך לדוגמה $100,000 בבנק, הוא הפך ל$10,000. שיחה מטלטלת, לא רק על מה שקרה בלבנון למשפחות לבנוניות, על איך הם שרדו, איך הם התאוששו, ומה עלול לקרות גם לנו. לא משנה אם אתם גרים בארץ או בכל מקום אחר. אז חברים שלי, להאזין עם לב פתוח ממש, ואוזניים פתוחות ממש. אני אוהב אתכם, וסליחה מראש אם זה טלטל לכם את הצורה, כי אני רוצה שכולנו נתעורר. אני אוהב אתכם, יובל, נעבור לפרק, ביי. Giselle, welcome to Financial Clowning. I'm very, very excited to have you. It's been a while since I've recorded a chapter in English, so I'm pretty excited. I hope my English flows well like a river and not like So you were born in the States by
I was, yes.
An American mother and a Lebanese father.
Lebanese father.
And you had the chance to have other opportunities that a lot of people in your family from Lebanon didn't have. So I would love for you first to tell me a bit about how is it for them being there in Lebanon, how life is there. And also then I would love for us to get to the point of what happened with the banks a few years ago in 2019. I think, let's say, I hope I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to happen again in a lot more developed countries and many, many, many other countries, not just the Middle East. And I think a very, very, very big financial crisis is on its way, and most people are deeply asleep. So I would love, and hopefully, I pray this chapter is going to wake up a lot of people. So please, you can say everything you want. You don't have to be fine or gentle, okay?
Sounds good. I'll give you everything I have, I guess.
Thank you. So, Lebanon wasn't always a stable place. Usually, I think it wasn't from my perspective. In the last 40 years, I'm here on this planet.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever had a stability. Or as soon as you feel like there might be stability, something rocks the boat.
Yeah.
So I think there's no... I don't know if I want to say there's a normal that you just get used to. So that's your normal being in Lebanon. Because I noticed that from my cousins and my family that lives there and is still there.
You get used to everything.
Yeah, they operate from their sense of normal.
Yeah.
So that's what's quite different from many other places or many other countries in terms of, what other countries offer and give you. You find that to be, you have so much more, or maybe not more, but the stability in what you have there, you kind of take for granted, seeing what other countries do go through, or, how there is volatility and, it can be very unstable in Lebanon. Obviously, as we've seen over the last, I would say almost 6 years, easily just one hit after another, whatever it may be, anything from, like we were talking a bit about the banking crisis to COVID and how all that, plays into effect. So yeah, my family there, I find that they're very strong as a group, which is great because they all can help each other. And I think that's kind of how they've been able to get through this. Having some international ties helps them, as well as, they're all in a small little village within almost walking distance from each other, which is kind of the beauty of why I love there so much when I get to go visit. So they all can help each other. They all own their homes. They all, one of my aunts pretty much has a farm. So it's like they're all there helping each other out. So they're making it through it, but also having international ties and or any type of international business makes it so that you can actually survive in Lebanon, I feel like, in these days.
You think people that don't have an international or some kind of an online income stream or a business, they cannot make a living in Lebanon? It's too hard? Okay, let's go a step before that, Giselle, if we may. How was it in Lebanon, I don't know, in the last, few decades? And what happened in the last decade that made everything worse?
I think for sure the banking crisis was the biggest part that really, it collapsed the economy. Beforehand, there's always been a bit of volatility, turmoil when it comes to politics. Not everybody's always on the same side. Many, many decades ago, obviously, there was like civil war. So, the area has never... It's always had its trials and tribulations, so to speak. But I think for those that live there, you just figure out how to continue. That's the resilience, I think, a bit of the Lebanese. They just figure out how to continue. What do we do next? How do we overcome this next hurdle? And for those that don't want to or can't not easily leave, they just find ways to manage. So I think, it's always been a bit uncertain, but I think in the last decade, especially when we come to the banking crisis, that really put a hurt on everybody, realistically, because everybody's money who was in the bank was lost. The lira was devalued. Overnight, it seemed like 80% of people were in poverty. So that happened quickly, and it hasn't been able to stabilize, I don't believe, up until now. I know that they're managing at this point, but many are managing from outsource income, like we're talking about making, money online somehow or from somewhere else to survive there, because I don't think that the incomes have come back. They had plummeted. You went from making $4,000 a month to $400 a month. Wow. So, when everything devalues that quickly and that much, it's a big hurt for the country, for majority of the people there.
So if I understand correctly, until 2019, it was relatively okay. And then in 2019, you would go to the bank and suddenly you would go there and say, okay, I want to cash out my money. And you would get an answer, sorry, no.
Yeah, it's like my understanding, I don't think there was much of an awareness about it. I don't know. And I don't know if it was also just... I know there's many things. If you kind of read up a little bit on the history, there's many things that contributed to why it happened. Kind of like a perfect storm to make it all happen. But yeah, it was like my uncle was trying to buy, for instance, an apartment. He had gotten the funds approved by the bank to do the transfer. It was Lebanese bank to Lebanese bank. So they were doing the transfer to buy the apartment. And when they got down to the final days of it, they went to send the money and they said, oh no, there's a freeze on the banks. And he said, but you already approved it. And that was the only way he was able to get the apartment, was because he fought with them because they had already approved it. So they allowed the transfer, but otherwise it wouldn't have happened. So it kind of felt like just overnight, it was like your money was frozen. And I think for a minute there was hope that, okay, there's something happening, but it's frozen. And then as things started devaluing and the lira started crashing, it became evident that the money wasn't there. There was no money. All the money that...
And it's not like they've been stealing it. They just devalued the money because whoever wanted to get his money, he couldn't get the dollars, he could just get the Lebanese lira, but then the exchange rate changed overnight. What was the exchange rate?
It used to be 1,500 liras to $1. Now it's almost 90,000 to $1. And that happened, I would say, pretty rapidly, at least within a year for sure, going from 1,500 and stable to 90 and stable. because it bounced around a bit in between. I remember being there sometimes when we were buying Lebanese lira on the black market so that we could go buy things. But the exchange rate was dependent upon who you could get it from. So I think there was many things that kind of happened for freezing the money and then losing the money. And the money was lost a bit because there was a Ponzi scheme in regards to how the money was being handled in the banks, offering really high interest rates. And then also there was, I believe, an issue with the banks, or that the government basically had defaulted on many of their European or international loans and lending. So there was a lot that kind of just made it all collapse. And then there was no money in the banks to be given back to the people who had their money in the bank.
Insane. So let's say you had $100,000 there. After a few days, this is hardly 10,000.
Yeah. And I think for a while it was just locked as 100,000. And then shortly later, did you realize that 100,000 now became 10,000, but even that 10,000 was inaccessible. That 10,000 became, maybe you were lucky to take $100 a month over so many months to be able to try to get your money out.
This is insane. Yeah. What you're saying is insane.
There was a story of a gentleman who went and quote unquote robbed the bank for like $4,320. It was such a specific amount. It was so that he could pay for his sister's surgery. He couldn't get his money out to pay for his sister's surgery. Like, this is what the people were dealing with. And to me, it's still to this day, it's like coming from a place where in the US, things are much more stable and the banking sector is much more stable like that. It's like I still I can't grasp the reality of what it feels like, you know?
Do you trust the system today, even in the States? Do you trust the bank? If you now have, I don't know, whatever, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whatever, do you trust that when you need your money, you're going to get it?
All of it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, do you trust it?
No, I don't.
Or are they playing with it? Because I think that they're playing with it, and I think you can get portions of it. So should this happen in the US, oh my God, it's going to be crazy. It's not going to be like Lebanon, where they're just going to say, okay, I'm going to start a new job, or I'm going to find a new way to earn income.
Let's just move to a small side road and mention, I don't know, many of our viewers or listeners might not be aware that the way it used to be in the past, and I mean many, 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 many years, many centuries, many decades, the money was backed by something with value. It could have been
silver, gold, something.
It could have been gold. It was something. Now, since 71 in the States, Nixon took the money off the gold standard. And that means, and that's America, that's the United States of America, the biggest blah, blah, blah in the world, yeah? Whatever. And then the dollar is not backed by gold anymore. So that's called fiat money, which is, because you give it trust, it's worth something. You can pay taxes with it, you can pay whatever, and it's a legal tender. People accept it as a currency, a valid currency. But, and that's a big but, and I think in this day and age, it's extremely important to understand and grasp this concept. That money might not be available, and that money is devaluating because of inflation every day, every week, every month, every year, and it's insane. So let's say $100,000, if everything is okay with the bank, could have bought you, I don't know, 100,000 whatever groceries. Every day it goes lower and lower, 90, 80, 70, 60. Now, people who live in the States, I was just there visiting my sister and her family, they don't feel it because you use dollars. So the prices go up every time a bit more because of inflation. But what you're describing here is like an extreme situation that, if I understand correctly, the government used the bank as a puppet, like in the States, by the way, the Fed and the government, yeah? to print money. And they had to have a lot of money, so they told the people, come, put your money here, and I will give you high interest. This is dangerous. You're not getting a high interest just because they're nice. You're getting a high interest because there is a big danger here you're not aware of. There's a big risk. Yeah. And most people are not aware. Most people are, the day-to-day, bring money, bring bread to the
interest
table.
Rate, just put it in, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to do investments. I don't need to work on my financial education. And then one day, and this has happened many times in the past. Okay, fun fact. Maybe it's not fun, but it's a fact we should know. Every fiat currency in the history of this planet always devaluated until it crashed. Every fiat. This is now the first time in history all of the world, all of the countries are using fiat currency. We do not have even one country that have some kind of a currency backed by value, let's say as gold. So no gold standard anymore. So this is the first time in history, everything is monopoly money. Everything is, I want to say, like our toilet paper, but toilet paper you can use. If this devaluates, I don't know what you can use it.
Toilet paper.
Yeah, but the toilet paper is softer,
It actually costs you something, yeah.
This is insane. And then
Yeah.
people woke up. By the way, it happened to a good friend of mine who lives in Georgia, the country, not the state in the, Georgians. When he was a kid, about 50 years ago, overnight, his family became poor and they left to Israel. Then after a few decades, they came back and started everything from scratch. So now you're sharing this story in Lebanon, 2019. People come to the bank. It's like 2008 or every other crisis we have. One sunny morning, sorry, your money is gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you think the people were aware that the high interest, by the way, how much interest was it? 7, 8, 9, 6?
I think
10?
it was between 6 and 8, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a decent interest.
Yeah, very decent and no risk.
Yeah, especially for a bank most banks don't give good interest rates. I mean, from what I understand.
Of course. But wait, here's another fun fact, Giselle, if I may. How do you make money in this day and age? So basically, the bank gets his money from the federal bank, who just printed from fine air because it's not backed by any gold standard. It used to be that you can only print as much as you have gold in the safes. So let's say if you want to print $1 trillion, you have to have 1 trillion equivalent in gold and silver. But if you're not by any gold or silver standard, you can just print it like toilet paper, It's insane. So the banks get the money from the federal bank, who gets, it's like a puppet show from the government. Yeah. And they take it, and it's called, I think it's called in English, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, partial reserve system. It means basically, Giselle, that if you deposit $100, the bank can take it and loan it to other people at least, sometimes it's more, at least $90, which is 90%. And then, let's say I come and I get those $90 and I deposit those, now they can take it and lend someone $81. So basically, you get a lot of money. It's like 5 to 10 times more, sometimes even worse. That doesn't exist. Now, let's say all of the people, me and you and all of the people that loaned the money or deposited the money goes to the bank on the same day. This is called a run on the bank. And then the bank...
you're not going to get your money.
No, you're not going to get... Sorry for saying, you're not going to get shit.
It's
nothing.
True. Yeah.
Nothing. And that's... Here is a live story you're sharing with us. 2019, it's only... We're now mid-26. This is only 7 years ago. This is totally fresh. You can still smell it.
Still feel it. Still taste it. Still, yeah.
This is insane.
I don't know any of my family members that trust, the banking system there. They deal internationally or money in the safe. Yeah.
I
wouldn't trust
imagine.
the system there.
Never. Never. Listen,
Yeah.
I used to trust everything. 2020 COVID, they started injecting shit to people's veins and causing so many problems. And I was like, whoa, something is wrong. And then I think millions like me woke up and starting asking questions. What the F is going on? And then you get to other subjects like the economy, and you're like, oh my God, I have been hypnotized from day one since I came to this planet to work for paper money, fiat money, that is not backed by anything. So you have a small elite of people that control the government and control the banks, and this is the way the game works now. Now, if you look in history again, all of the fiat currency collapsed. So this is just a matter of time, Giselle, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. This is a matter of time before it happens in many, many other countries. By the way, do you know what's the way to boost the economy back after this kind of horrors happens? A big, big crisis. Usually it's a war. It caused World War One, and then it caused World War Two. And I hope it's not going to cause World War Three.
Yeah, I think we all hope that, but I guess we're all waiting to find out, unfortunately.
Do you think the people in Lebanon saw it coming?
To be honest, I don't think so. I don't think most of them did. I mean, I know one of my uncles worked for a bank and he lost his money. So I think there was a few that maybe knew it was coming, a very few, maybe the elite of the elites in the government, or that were creating these deals, when the deals were going bad, or seeing what they were doing, and they may have known. But to me, from everything that I've seen and from what I've learned from my family, nobody really saw it coming. Nobody knew it was as bad as it was.
The government controlled the central bank, so they can print whatever they want. And I think that if you look at it in a financial point of view, I think that is the main reason that caused this crisis. Because you need to have like different authorities with different powers. You cannot have one authority that have all the power. Because if the government is wrong, this is what you get. And if they use the central bank in a wrong way, this is what, if you put the wrong ingredients, that's the cake.
Yeah.
And so many good people are suffering. Good, decent,
hardworking, who just lost everything.
Wow. It breaks my heart. I just imagining like one of my parents going to the bank. It breaks my heart. And people saying, sorry, no money. By the way, my parents came from Moldova, Kishinev, next to Russia, next to Romania during the 70s to Israel. They don't trust anything because they've seen so many horrors, like all of that area with Russia and the KGB and the banks and all of the so much corruption. They don't trust the banks. They don't trust anything. I remember as a kid, my father tried to explain me, and I was so like, I don't know what's the word, but naive. And I was like, no way. Here it couldn't happen.
My grandmother was like that. I wish she was around more for me to have picked her brain when I got older enough to understand it. But she was very, I think from living through the Depression in America, she had very little trust in a lot of things.
Because she saw what the system, how the system
can be broken.
Exactly. And you're trained to trust everything. But then when it doesn't work.
But so sometimes I feel like then what's the alternative, right? The banks aren't, if they're not backed by gold, by silver, what do you do? So you put your money under your, mattress. It's going to be less tomorrow anyways.
Okay.
It's scary. It's like, what do you do?
I'm going to get to that. And it's a great open questions for our audience. So if you're enjoying this chapter, if you think you know what to do. If you have any, I'm going to say what I think, but I would love to hear before that, what do you think? So what can you do with the money? Should you put it under the mattress? Like a lot of Haredic Jews are doing, by the way. Their money is not in the bank. It's under the mattress. You have full neighborhoods that everything is in cash,
Yeah.
you know, off the radar. And I can understand why. If
Yeah.
you guys think, we would love to hear, what do you think about this situation? Like, how do you save your money? Please write in the comments, okay? And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share it with a good friend that this chapter is exactly what he needs to hear to wake the F up. Giselle, fun fact. We talked about how they make the money. And we talked about it's not being like backed by gold for a lot of decades now. A lot of the money, people, you know what? This is too harsh. I'm not gonna say it. Let's keep it simple. People will start saying, Yuval, you're such a conspiracy theorist. You're insane. Stop it. Okay, let's keep it to our coffee after the episode. Anyway, so the crisis happened. People had money, and then in a second, it collapsed almost to 10%, even maybe less. And also that small amount, you cannot get in one portion. You had to get it over time. Every time a bit more, like a beggar for bread. It's insane. And
Yeah.
it's your money under a big, known, trusted bank. And everything collapsed. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't need to worry, my money is in a very big known bank in Israel, in the States, in Europe, in the UK, wherever. Oh, you do need to worry. Sorry for saying that. How did people manage it? How did they survive? What did they do?
I mean, for those, like I said, I think 80% became, poverty level overnight. I think that they just tried to, as a community, do the best they can to take care of each other. My family was lucky. They were, they take care of each other. So they were very able to, help each other with groceries or food. They all own their homes. So it was more about, getting electricity, finding electricity. That was, I feel like the government collapsed shortly after. So they were without, they were kind of self-governed almost. So there was very little electricity. There was very little, utilities or things that were coming. So that it was having to figure out how to get together and get either a generator for the town or for communities, get solar. And that came obviously later, but just trying to survive the days was, feeding yourself and surviving. So I think a lot of the community tried to come together. I remember one of my uncles has a bakery. Like I said, one of my aunts has, almost like a farm. They grow a lot of things on their land. So they helped each other out. But I know that there was workers that came and they couldn't get bread. So they paid them and then they gave them bread because they had the hardest time finding flour for bread or, so it's a community that wants to help each other out and they want to survive and they want to get through it. So that's, I think, how they figured out how to do it.
Here in Costa Rica, a lot of foreigners from Israel, from the States, from Canada, from Europe moved here to create exactly this. A lot of people here owned their own land. They have their own water. They have their own fruit trees and greenhouses with so many nutritious, beautiful vegetables. And
Yeah,
they are
sustainable
working.
living.
Exactly. And they're working in collaborations. Exactly. And they're working with collaboration with the local people and the foreigner people. And you can see like a lot of small villages as it used to be like, I don't know, a few centuries before. So, and a lot of those people, a lot of the foreigners woke up during COVID, like 6 years ago. And they came here for that reason. So you can see a lot of people that like, I don't know, like white collar, becoming farmers or doing their online job, like I'm doing my podcast and my stuff, and also growing food. Because exactly of what you're now saying, they're taking care of their own electricity and energy. They have a lot of fuel stored, solar and gas. They have a lot of solar panels, and they have great, great clean waters from wells they drew inside the ground in their own. And they're working together as a community. They're growing the kids together. It's exactly like a few centuries ago, before the modern, I don't know, before the machine era and
We
all
need
of
to
those
get
stuff.
away, I think, from the way the modern world is working, because obviously the modern world is harming our environment, in my opinion. So the more we can go back to the way we used to be and build more communities again, I think it's ideal. And self-sustaining is definitely, I mean, that's where it's kind of go back to the question of it of like, what do you do, right? You make sure that you can take care of yourself and maybe the ones around you, and or you find a community that you can make that work in.
I 1000% agree. I want to share a question. One of my mentors, who is very extreme for a lot of people, I appreciate his wisdom words. And he asked me 3 years ago when I went to visit him in Georgia, and he said, "You're very successful. You love what you do, and you have a lot of investments. But can I ask you a question?" I said, "Of course." And he said, "But I want you to give me like a very sincere answer." I said, "Okay. If tomorrow morning you have no clean water, you have no electricity, and you have no supermarkets or Walmarts or whatever to buy your food, is your money good in any way?" And I remember me sitting there becoming white, because that was the first time. I'm now 30, I'm going to turn 43 in a few weeks. And that was 3 years ago. And that was my first time in 40 years I ever spent time on that question. And then I realized how reliable all of us, and how they took the people's power. And you go in the morning and you work and you think you're progressed and you think you're successful. But then again, no water, no electricity, no food, you're fucked.
Yeah. No survival.
No survival. And
Yeah.
most of the society today, zero survival abilities, skills, zero.
I mean, what is it's statistics maybe, and I could be wrong, so I'm not sure, but I want to say like 1 week, they say, maybe 3 weeks. No, I think 1 to 3 weeks, depending on what your water source might be.
And then that's even without the bank collapsing. You have money on the bank, but you don't have any electricity or a way to get there. What do you do? Or you have money, you have cash money. What do you do? You're going to buy with your paper, fiat, shitty money that's worth nothing. And you're saying to your, I don't know, whatever village is near you, please give me water and food. They don't need your paper. They have toilet paper. They're only going to give it if they're kind, and they have enough stored. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they're going to say, what do you
No.
want? No.
Next village.
Get out of here.
Yeah, out of here.
And what do you do if you have small kids and you need to take care of them? This is scary thoughts. And these are thoughts most people don't even want to spend 1 second pondering on.
Yeah.
And I can understand why. And if it wouldn't be for this mentor I so appreciate, I would never give any attention to that manner, And I think eventually it got me to Costa Rica.
Got you to a place where you can have all those things.
Do you think in Lebanon, people like your uncle, I think, that took his fiat money and converted it to something with value, like real estate, do you think it saved their money?
I mean, for sure, right? Because right now, what would he have? Nothing. And instead he has an apartment. So he has something. Did you have to figure out how to get the water and the electricity? Yeah, but you still have a tangible item. Is it worth what it was when he transferred the money? No. But is it something? Is it worth more than what's in the bank? For sure.
Uh-huh. And if he would want to sell it, how can he sell it? Well, how can people pay for this?
Yeah, I think it's the only investments that are happening now, I believe, in Lebanon are anybody with outside means of money. Somebody who is in Lebanon with Lebanese money probably can't afford anything. They're still trying to survive.
Wow, my God.
So I think the investments that can be still Lebanese, but they're earning their income elsewhere, or they have a business outside of the country.
And would they pay with US dollars or the local lira?
Yeah, I think that right now the shift seems to be trying to go into American money, a US dollar versus a Lebanese lira. So I think that there's a shift happening there as well. I'm not 100% sure what it is and how it's really going to go. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. I don't pay as much attention to the direct economics over there. I try to stay as involved as I can, just to understand and, know what my family's going through or how I can help. But yeah, it's interesting to see that there is that shift from the Lebanese lira, because they've always accepted US dollars, but it was kind of, you had both, you know what I mean? You always still paid in Lebanese lira, you got Lebanese lira back. And more recently, it seems as though everything's shifting into a dollar because the Lebanese lira is so devalued that it's, no longer anything that was from they called them lollars, I believe. And I think that's why, because they became devalued and they weren't worth anything anymore. So they became the old currency that no longer kind of worked, so to speak. And everything now is based off of the US dollar.
So basically, if you would take your money before everything collapsed, you can turn it into real estate. But then again, the people that can rent or buy this real estate from you are very small portion of the population there.
Yeah, I mean, the rents right now are so low, so they wouldn't, the rents there are low and it doesn't make sense in terms of like for an investment standpoint. I mean, you could get something out of them, but not much. It's a very interesting place I learned a little bit about it just because I'm always interested in real estate. So I learned a little bit about how the rental market works there. And it's more, I don't want to say more in favor of the renter, but there's a lot of rules that you have to, go by for the renters. Rents are pretty low compared to the purchase costs. And then they're allowed to stay up to 3 years. You have to be able to renew a lease up to 3 years for them. So there's a lot of ways that your real estate would be tied up.
Uh-huh.
So, and then if and when you have a situation where the government is shut down, then you have no court systems. So then you're stuck if you're trying to deal with renter landlord, issues in terms of legal battles. So it's a tough place, I think, to try to have real estate as an investment.
My friend from Georgia, a few decades ago, when everything collapsed there, the way they saved their money was buying gold coins, 1 ounce gold coins.
Smart.
And what happened, and because it doesn't take a lot of storage, like this can be, today, 20 coins is $100,000. Like when I left the UK 2.5 years ago, you can get 50 coins for $100,000. And it's not because the gold went up, it's because the dollar depreciated. So it used to be 50 coins, now it's 20 coins. I expect in 2 years it's going to be only 10 coins and then 5 coins and etc. So their family bought gold. And because it's so easy to store, you can take it in the wallet or the pocket, they managed to save their family money and start over in a new place. I think nowadays, and this is what we said before, that I'm going to say what I think, buying gold, buying silver, let's say metals, is the first thing people should do with some amount of their money, because this has proven itself for thousands of years. I think the second thing people should do is get educated about digital currencies, because I see now the trend is very strong. The entire world is going to go digital. By the way, this is how you can be controlled even more.
I know.
But if you play the game, I would suggest having Bitcoins and having digital currencies as well. And the third thing I think can save your money is buying land where you can grow food and water from. But this requires courage in a very high level. It requires a person to say, okay, I understand I'm living in a scam or a dream or a fantasy, and this bubble might burst in my face. So if I want to take control, sovereignty on my life and my family's life, I need to probably go to a different country where all of these stuff are possible. Now, most of the countries in the Western world, you're not going to be allowed just to buy a big chunk of land and grow your food on. They don't want the small people having their own sovereignty. So this requires a lot of courage. So this is a very advanced stage, I would say. But for everyone, even if you're not going to leave your country or your job or whatever, I would invest at least 20% in metals, at least 20 more percent in my opinion, in digital currency, especially the Bitcoin, XRP, XLM, and etc. This is not a financial advice. It's just my opinion, some clown from the internet, okay? And I would say the other thing I would do is buy land or real estate or something that has value. Because if the paper becomes toilet paper, sorry, if your money, what you call money, it's not really money, but this is another subject. If your fiat money becomes toilet paper, it's lost. So you want to convert it as soon as you can to something with value. This is what I think. Please share in the comments if you think I'm insane or you find any logic in what I'm saying and everything that Gizelle shared from her family's experience. What else do you think we should add to this unique chapter?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think I've always come from a platform of like have a diverse portfolio, right? In the sense of you should always be invested in many options. And for me, real estate is a big one. I think that's always something it's tangible. Somebody's always going to need a place to live. Now, if your money isn't worth anything, there's still a barter system. There's still a way to figure out how to like make that work. For me and my husband, we personally actually live on 2 acres where we could grow our own food. We are on a well system. We're looking towards trying to figure out how to get electricity via wind, actually, where we live, because we're in high winds. So there's so many options to be able to secure yourself. We've educated ourselves in hunting. So there's so many options for you to take care of yourself when, I always say, when the shit hits the fan, right?
I think the clock is ticking.
And maybe not in our lifetime. That's what I mean.
Oh, no, Gizelle. I think we have like 2 to 3 years by 2030. Maybe 4 years. This is what I think. God, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because the clock is ticking. And they just announced this week the digital new shekel in Israel. In other words, the rope just got tighter. Because now they control, fun fact. Okay, I am going to say it. In China, they have areas where you're allowed to buy certain amounts of food or clothes or fuel or whatever you need on specific days and specific hours. And if you for some reason didn't obey the law, your credit goes down. Like the States, you have the credit score. So let's say you have a human being score. Now you can get a message saying, okay, you need to get out of the area you're living. Your score just got lower and you need to move to a different area, far, far, far away. This is insane. Now, for me as a Jewish person, I growing with my grandfather and grandmother who were kids in the Holocaust area, nothing, right, from the stories I heard from them directly, not from books, directly, nothing will surprise me, And maybe this is insane, but I wouldn't be surprised, So it's already happening in China. Everything is digitalized. You have cameras everywhere. You're like, it's like those movies, those sci-fi movies, And there's so many of them. And we're going in that direction. And now with the AI progressing so fast. By the way, another fun fact. If the US dollar, okay, so after the Second World War, all of the winning side came to sit down and chat and how are we going to bring the economy back? So they met in a very nice place in the States and they say, okay, so the US dollar is going to be the money that everybody is going to use and it's going to be backed by gold to make it worth something real and not to be inflated. Bretton Woods, okay, that's the place. And then on 71, Nixon started with his war, the Cold War and Vietnam and everything. He needed money. So he took it temporarily off the gold standard. But if it's not on the gold standard, countries could come to the States and get, back then, for every $35 they had, an ounce of gold until 71. So if he took it off the gold standard, how can people still give trust in the US dollar? One of the ministers back then, Henry Kissinger, went and did a very smart deal with all of the countries that supply energy, gas, from the ground, and say, we, as the strongest nation in the world, are going to give you guys protection. You guys, on the other hand, are going to sell oil only and accept only US dollars. And that's how the US dollar kept being like the international standard, although it's this close to toilet paper, not backed by gold. Insane, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And you know what I think is more insane? Most people are not aware. They're exchanging their life energy and time to get fiat money. And they're treating it like it's the best thing in the world. I think this is like insane how we have been like programmed. I have a very big real estate college, and a lot of people come and they learn a lot of tools for life and a lot of self-awareness and meditation and like wellness stuff, and also real estate. First we work on the being and then we work on the doing. And a lot of people, when you say diversify, they think, okay, stock market, S&P 500, etc., and real estate. But when I say no, diversify even more, gold, silver, Bitcoin, lands, not just houses in real estate and S&P 500, they go blink, 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 huh? Because it's so foreign. And this is insane how we've been programmed that the fiat paper, I don't know, here's some other paper. What's the difference? No difference. Just hear the differences. How the fiat paper became more valuable than what it used to represent, which is precious metals and land. This is insane, in my opinion. How far we've come, or how far we've been programmed not to understand what real value of money is.
Yeah, it's just a denomination now, I think. So it's interesting and it's scary at the same time.
I hope I didn't scare or depress our viewers or listeners. I just want people be more aware, because I'm full of love and I want you guys to be prosperous. And the way, in my opinion, to be prosperous in this day and age is all of the awareness and actions needed to protect yourself and your family and be self-sustainable and have gold and silver and Bitcoin and lands, and not to be dependent on the governments or the corruption system we've been grown up into. That's it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your courage.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to my family's story.
Thank you for sharing everything in such a sincere way. Those matters are stuff that really close to me and touch me, and I can feel like I'm getting all heated up, because it annoys me so much how ignorant most of us, how ignorant I've been most of my life, until I woke up a few years ago to understand the ecosystem we're living in. And I felt like I was a small fish, realizing he's not swimming in the ocean. He's swimming in a very controlled, small, tiny aquarium.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that perspective of it. Because I feel like even, through this, like I've learned a little bit. We're all naive in some way or another. And sometimes we're just conditioned to put our blinders on and do what we're supposed to do every day, right?
Yeah.
Go to work, do this, do that,
Yeah.
pay the mortgage, so.
Without ever asking, wait, is there another way? Can those things be different? It's hard questions. It takes courage. It takes, like big
it takes courage
steps.
for action too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you, Giselle. Thank you. God bless you and your family. And
Thank
thank
you.
you
God bless you.
for your time and your sincere sharings. I hope you've enjoyed this chapter. If you have, please leave a comment. Write to Giselle. What do you guys think? Write me. Write whatever you think is relevant or irrelevant. Maybe you think we're insane, or maybe you think, oh God, I just woke up. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and share this to friends that might benefit a few other perspectives to life. Thank you, Giselle. God bless. אהובים, מקווה שנהנתם מהפרק. אני רק רוצה לומר, קודם כל תודה ענקית לג'יזל ולהילה גלעדי שהביאה לי אותה, שהיא שכנה שלה בבליז. אני רוצה להגיד לכם כמה דברים לסיום. אחד, זאת רק דעתי, יכול להיות שאני טועה, אבל אתם רואים שהדבר הזה קרה מהסיפור של ג'יזל, מהסיפור של אלי שביט, למי שמכיר אותו מהפודקאסט שלי, שהיה כבר בשני פרקים, שסיפר איך כל הדברים התנתקו לו והתרסקו מול הפנים כילד, וזה קרה שוב ושוב 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 ושוב. תחקרו קצת על מה שאני אומר, תעשו גוגל, תעשו צ'אט GPT, לא משנה מה. תראו רגע על מה אני מדבר. זה לא שהנדלן טס, או ה-S&P טס, או כל הדברים האלה, או הזהב טס. זהב היום שווה $5,000. לפני לא הרבה זמן הוא היה $35. זה לא הזהב או הנדלן או המניות, זה הדולר שהצטמק. זאת אומרת, צריך הרבה יותר דולרים כדי לקנות ומקיעה אחת. מ$35 ל$5,000. זה אותם כמות של דולרים מבחינת השווי. אתם מבינים מה אני אומר? אני עובד מאוד חזק על לבנות לעצמי, נקרא לזה, מקום בטוח, שאני לא תלוי בשום דבר, חשמל, מים וכדומה. אני מקווה שאני אוכל להזמין אתכם לבוא ולחוות את המקום הזה, ולהתרשם ממנו בעצמכם. זה יכול לקחת זמן, אני לא יודע כמה זמן זה ייקח, אבל הנה, זו ההתחייבות שלי אליכם, בעזרת השם, שאני אוכל להזמין אתכם לרטריטים וסדנאות אצלי במקום בקוסטה ריקה. אהובים שלי, אני מקווה שנהנתם מהפרק הזה, בבקשה תכתבו לי בתגובות מה חשבתם, ממש מעניין אותי, כמה הבנתם, כמה אתם מסכימים איתי, או כמה אתם ממש לא מסכימים איתי, שזה לגיטימי לחלוטין, בסדר? כמובן, תירשמו לערוץ, תפרגנו בלייק, ושלחו את זה לחבר או חברה שזה יכול להועיל להם. זה מבחינתכם הדרך להועיל לי, ולעזור לי להביא אורחים מרתקים מרחבי העולם. התמיכה שלכם בערוץ, הלייקים, התגובות, השיתופים וההרשמה. חיבוק ענק, עם אף עגול ואדום. ולא משנה כמה הפרק הזה נשמע אולי מטורף או פסימי, אני כל הזמן מזכיר לעצמי, אני עכשיו קמתי הבוקר, עכשיו אני חי, עכשיו אני בוחר לחייך ולהיות אופטימי. אבל אני גם מתכונן למה שאני חושב שצפוי להגיע. מתוך אופטימיות, לא מתוך פחד וחרדה. חיבוק. אחלה יום שיהיה לכם. ביי.